All right, everyone. Hi, how are you guys? It's about 6 o'clock, just a little bit after 6 o'clock here. So I hope you guys are having a really good day today. I am on here. So I'm Jenna. I work with Jeff and Jennifer. Jeff actually had a family emergency today, so he is actually not with us, but sending him some good vibes for that. But I do have Jennifer Merida. She is a financial advisor as well. Jennifer is a certified divorce financial analyst and a financial advisor. So she specializes in multiple different transitions throughout life as well. So we're very excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys very much for that last minute replacement.
And I want to go through. So Jennifer's going to give the same exact presentation. She's going to talk a little bit about retirement. She's going to talk a little bit about the transitions, but essentially unlocking your financial freedom, right? And as you go through these specific transitions, which is retirement, job loss, transitioning, just different states of your life, really. And we'll go through that through the presentation, but I'm going to turn it over to you at this point, and we're going to have a good presentation. It'll be about 30 minutes, maybe a little bit less from there.
Yeah, we will keep this definitely on time. And again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight and taking time out of your day. I'm Jennifer Merida. I have been in the financial industry for 20 years now, and with the Tranel Financial Group for a little bit over 2 years. So I'll go through my story and how I became a financial advisor with Tranel Financial Group. But I didn't always start out by being a financial advisor. I actually wanted to be a stunt pilot. So I would go to air shows with my father, and I loved just kind of just how accurate you have to be and the excitement of it, but really the precision of everything as well. So always a numbers person. A little bit of a thrill seeker as well, but I actually went to college to become a pilot, and I was a flight instructor for a while. And also I was getting my degree in accounting. But as I'll date myself now, September 11th happened while I was flight instructing, and I decided to just go into accounting just because there were some other things in there, but my husband at the time was a pilot, and we just decided that two of us in the industry was not a well laid out plan. So always strategizing, always thinking. But then I realized I love talking with people, and being an accountant doesn't mean you don't talk with people, but I wanted to help people achieve their financial goals, really help them plan, especially when they're going through times like retirement, transition times, if they are going through a divorce, really understanding what their finances are and how do you plan for the future. And then I was networking and worked with Tranel on a couple of things, and really understood that Tranel is so just when you walk in the door here and you talk with their employees, everybody is so happy, but so willing to help. And they understand that their clients are unique, and that their client, it's not cookie cutter. You're not walking in and getting one thing. We really understand what our clients do, what their goals are, and plan around that. And I said, you know what? I was at some of the big firms, I won't say any names, and I was like, no, I want to care about people, and I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And it was awesome, and working with Great Lakes Credit Union as well. I'm also the financial advisor for them, and I'll let Jenna talk about how we partner with Great Lakes Credit Union.
Awesome. So we've been in Libertyville since 1988, for 33 years. Coming up on 33 years here. We've actually been in Libertyville, started in downtown Libertyville and kind of worked our way a little bit more north throughout that time. We've been with the Great Lakes Credit Union for about 15 plus years. So we've had a great partnership. We love the members there. Just the wholesome mindset and just what comes with y'all is just amazing. So we love and appreciate that. And the relationships that we've developed with the tellers and the leadership team has just been great. So we manage about just over $500 million in assets. Of that, about 150-ish plus, give or take, is through the financial institutions as well. So that is part of that. And we continue to work with you guys pretty consistently. So if you see Jennifer or Jeff at the institutions, please feel free to say hi to us. We do have a couple of offices on Crystal Lake, Gurnee,
Antioch,
thank you.
Country Club Hills, Naperville, Bolingbrook. So if you're coming to us from any one of those, we really just appreciate it. Thank you guys for taking the time tonight. And I wanted to start off with, talking about the big problem here, but we are humans, and of all species, the big problem that we have is that we have emotions. So I say it's a problem, but it's a problem and it's a benefit, right? But we have emotions. And really, all of us have certain beliefs, and there's strong ties of emotions around money. And really, we're shaped with those beliefs or emotions around money from either childhood, from our parents and how we were raised, or just different life events that have happened to us. But what happens is we need a plan. And I'm a mother of 6 kids. So I had twins to wrap all that up. Yes, they're all mine. But I have 6 children. I work full time. My husband's in school to become a doctor. So it's just a very, very busy life. And sometimes
Can be emotional.
it can be very emotional. I won't say that all the time, but it can be very emotional. And we don't make the best decisions when we're in an emotional state. And I want to show you a life cycle here in a minute. But what happens is when we're planning for retirement, I'm excited to go through these 3 core principles with you today and show how we help clients plan for goals or for retirement. Then we have a couple gifts at the end. They're absolutely amazing giveaways that I want to provide to you just for really taking the time to be with us today. But when we talk about emotions, I guess the biggest, most recent event is really going through 2020. And I'm going to show how 2020 has brought us through this whole cycle of emotions. When you think about the beginning of 2020, we really all had high hopes, right? We're in the new decade.
Mhm.
Everybody partied into the 20s. But we had high hopes, right?
Yes.
The deal was made with China, like the economy was doing well. And then all of a sudden, COVID happened. And it was unknown and scary for a lot of people. The market went down more than we've seen in a very, very long time, about 35%. And when you're close to retirement, or even that's where your savings is, that's a huge emotional
Your heart
downturn
starts to,
that you can say, hey, some of you might even thought about turning into cash, and maybe you did. But that's where those emotions, sometimes that's probably not the best decision, is to go into cash, because we really did have a good upswing. But
right. Working with a financial
Yes.
advisor can help stabilize those emotions.
100%.
Right. Having someone to bounce ideas off of and bounce your emotional
right.
aspects off of.
Or just, having a plan of maybe some of it had to go into cash and some of it not, but just really
whatever.
understanding what are the facts versus emotions. Because think of it, in February, beginning of February, we were elated, we were happy. And all of a sudden at the end of February, we all didn't know what was going to go on. We didn't know if we were going to lose somebody that was close to us. We didn't know if, we were going to lose our job, or, there's so many unknowns going into this. We were all stuck in our houses. So nervous, alarmed, frightened, and really desolate. Depression was huge in 2020.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But now when we think about it, right, the market has had a good upswing. So, things are going steady. But we're opening back up too with the vaccine. We're opening back up. So now we're encouraged and hopeful and
absolutely
comforted of knowing that we can be safe again and see people again as well. So we all go through these emotional roller coasters. I put 2020 into perspective, but really, if you think about times in your life that you've been through, this is true. And if you have to make decisions when you're nervous or maybe not sure of yourself, that's when you really want to have a professional there with you. And this webinar is for anybody on this money life cycle. It could be somebody getting started. Maybe you're in your 20s or 30s and you're just starting in for retirement. Maybe you're building your wealth and preparing for retirement and you're well into your 40s or 50s. Maybe you are retired right now and you're listening to this saying, hey, what are some better options for me? Because you feel yourself going downhill and spending down your assets or running out of money. And really where we want to be is building that legacy. So before things get too bad, come up and say, hey, how am I going to leave my legacy for either my kids, grandchildren, or maybe somewhere else, charity. So just living this is going to be the theme of this, is living life on your terms and living retirement on your terms with these 3 core principles that we're going to go through today. So no matter where you're at, this is very, very, very relevant. So the 3 core principles, I want to start out with the first core principle of know how to spend your money to save your money.
No one's ever said that to me before.
I know, right? So this principle, it's really important to know how to organize and have your money to be able to save money, know where it's going, and actually have it in the right products or right strategies. Because we all were not taught how, spending money is easy, but we were not taught how to strategize to spend money in the right way. You were probably taught how to do that, maybe, but but we all weren't taught. We may have seen too much credit card usage. We may have seen not enough savings. There's a lack of savings. Most Americans do not have enough savings to live if they had an emergency for 6 months, or they lost their job for 6 months. So it's really important to know how to spend your money to save your money, especially when you're going into retirement. And now you're saying, okay, we saved for our 401k. I'm ready to retire. And now I'm getting this whole 401k in a lump sum. How am I going to make this last? Because what happens if you don't know how to spend your money to save your money is that you can really pay more in taxes than you need to. Nobody wants to do that. Deplete your portfolio, or run out of money, which would be deleting your portfolio.
Exactly.
Or live in fear. You don't want to do that in retirement. We work very hard, and we want to have just that sense of relief. You don't want to live in scarcity. You want to know, or maybe even make more money in retirement, and that's possible, and have your portfolio grow as a result of knowing this strategy. Now, I'm going to go into a story about Amy, and she's not close to retirement, but she has a story that really shows how she was able to kind of retire early to stay home with her babies after some really hard times. So when I met Amy, she was in a really, that life cycle, or that emotional cycle, she was very desolate. She was very, very depressed, but she had reasons to be happy. So Amy was very scared and lost. She was married, and she was pregnant with twins, and she had her twins. They were very little, and she was a truck driver, and so was her husband. And they just never really expected to have kids, and now they had twins. Super excited, but he ended up having brain cancer. He died very, very quickly. And for anybody, that's a horrible story. But for Amy, it was so sad because she has had a kind of a life of loss. Like, her father passed away, her brother passed away, her best friend passed away. And I know it sounds like a country music song, but it was really
that's emotional.
It was really emotional.
Wow. Okay.
And now she was saying, you know what? I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to be a truck driver. I don't want to be gone. I want to be home with my babies. And how am I going to make this work? So we need to know how to spend her money to save her money and to actually make her money.
Absolutely.
So she was getting a small life insurance policy. When I say life insurance, people think millions. This was a smaller sum that we needed to make last. And then she would get some Social Security money for each of her children. So we had to increase that income, probably about $1,000, and say, okay, so if we had this much money a month, she was able to, looking at her income, her cash flow, coming up with projections for the future, say, okay, we can get your life insurance money, we'll pay off some debt, and then invest, a certain amount. $200,000 is what we invested, and able to pull with our tactical income solution, which I'm not going to go into today, but it's one of our portfolios that was really able to help preserve her capital, be invested, preserve her capital, having dividend payments. So she wasn't eating through her principal, and the dividend payments were kind of replenishing back up. So it's an awesome strategy, which also is huge for our clients that are going through retirement. So that's, one thing that you'd want to reach out and ask about, because I think that's so important. But for Amy, it was important because she wanted to stay home, and she could. So she was so happy when we were able to say, yes, you can stay home. Your bills are going to be paid.
Absolutely.
And we were going to meet every 6 months just to make sure that she was going to stay on track.
Absolutely.
And she even had a time where she had to take some money out for something, and we were still able to keep up with that. So yes, 100%. She was able to smile. She was able to relax. She asked, I had so many kids. She asked me questions about my babies and certain things, because we all know new motherhood is always a question, right? But think about, I'm sure what I was talking about, Amy, that triggered something for you, saying, okay, what emergency did you go through, or looking at your life going maybe closer to retirement, about what stresses you out about your finances. She wanted to make sure she could stay home and still live and have enough money for her and her babies.
Absolutely.
Like, I want you, I forgot to have you guys do this before, but if you can get out a piece of paper, because I want you to write down, this is a little homework assignment, but I want you to write down the number one and just write down, what is the one thing that stresses you out the most about your money? So I just want you to imagine being like Amy and just being able to have less stress in the areas that stress you out the most. It's so important.
For me, that would probably, I am on the younger side, but for me, that would probably be ensuring that I do have enough in my savings for when I do, right, get older, and saving for through my 401k, my IRA, whole 9 yards for that. I know I have time, but it still stresses me out.
No, and that's
that I need to continue to save. My husband probably thinks stop saving, and I'm like, no,
more saving. I guess the one thing that stresses me out the most is my husband is in school, so he had a great career in finance, and he wanted to help kids. It's a long story, but so he's back into school to become a doctor, and we have student loan bills.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
starting where my age, which I'm not going to tell you my age, but we're starting at my age with 6 kids, and just being able to plan and being able to say, hey, how are we going to take care of the student loan?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So we all have things that stress us out, but in at different times of our life, who knew I was going to have student loans again, at my age,
which will not be disclosed.
So the next principle that I want to go through with you guys and discuss is our growth and income bucket. And this is an exciting one. Not my favorite one, but it's exciting.
Okay.
We'll get to my favorite one next.
Okay.
But this one is really about organization. It's the power of dividing your money into the growth and income bucket, which lets you have clarity and confidence about where you're going to go and how you're going to plan for retirement.
Okay.
So when you're working and you're pulling in a paycheck, sorry, I keep going off of the screen. When you're working and you're pulling in a paycheck, you know where your income's coming from, and you're kind of throwing money into a 401k and letting that grow. Now, all of a sudden you hit the date where you're going to retire, your paycheck is going to stop. Every dollar still has a purpose. So you want to have a growth and income bucket to be able to organize in your head and on paper where your money is going and what its purpose is. There is an income purpose and there is a growth purpose. People that do not have their money organized and don't have this strategy really have a fear of honestly running out of money. Are you spending too much? Where are your raises coming from? When you work and for a living, you have a raise, and all of a sudden now you don't have a raise to keep up with inflation. There are ways to conquer that and ways to combat that, I guess. And just honestly keeping up with inflation and keeping up with taxes. So having a tax plan, right? Required minimum distributions. You don't know about that, reach out to us, but that is something that can eat away at your money that you saved for. And there's ways to strategize around that. So you want the growth and income bucket to help you get organized and have that purpose, security of knowing that you're not going to run out of money and that you can do the things you enjoy. You can go on those vacations that you couldn't do because you were working. And now you're fearful you can't do because you're going to run out of money. No, you're not going to have that fear. It's going to bring clarity to you. And this is what you deserve, and you deserve in retirement. So I want to take this story and take this core principle and look at it through Larry. So typical hard-working person. He works for a union. He was actually very important. He was an electrician at a hospital. Okay. And although that was a lot of work, was important and a lot of work, he was on call all the time. So if Christmas, his pager, and I'm going to say pager, if nobody knows what that is, we used to have those back in my day, but his pager would go off and he would have to leave Christmas and go because he had to fix electricity at a hospital, and it's very important. Yeah, absolutely. So he was always on call. He definitely, had some ups and downs. There was a divorce. He's got 3 grown children. He just wanted to get his life back. He could figure out how to solve so many problems, but he just wanted to figure out, how can I enjoy my life? I want to retire early. And that's what he wanted. So he was going to get a pension, of course, through the union. So his income was going to be set, but he was also 58. So he wasn't at an age where he could pull from his retirement assets yet.
Yep, absolutely.
So we wanted to make sure he had a lot of years for those retirement assets to grow still that he couldn't pull from, but then also his income, how is that going to work? Because honestly, his pension covered his bills. So we had that taken care of, but now we had a lot of tax concerns. His dad paid taxes, way too much taxes. And he was very concerned. He's like, no, I want to pass this money on, leave my legacy. And I don't want to pay too much in taxes. So how are we going to plan? Because now when he hit Social Security age, he didn't need that money. So when do you take Social Security? What is the right formula? What is the right combination?
Right.
So the income bucket was set, but then we had another side that was the growth bucket. This $900,000 that he had that he needed to figure out, how am I going to not pay as much as taxes? What am I going to do with that sum of money? Because now it's just going to keep growing, which is a good problem to have, by the way.
But it is important. So, we looked at doing Roth conversions, the timing, the amount, the tax consequences of that plan. But really, so when he became 72 and had to work with his required minimum distribution, that we had the smallest impact as possible. So that was the power of him setting up his growth and income bucket. Because first of all, he really just needed to know that his income was going to be okay and he could retire. So he's very excited. He retired 7 years earlier than he thought.
Well, that's amazing.
It's
exciting.
Can I retire 7 years earlier than I thought? That would be great. But he was able to, and just seeing he was a very serious person, a very concerned person. And then he realized that, okay, now I have a tax plan with the money that I want to preserve. He was so excited that he had the sense of clarity, had the sense of relief, that even though he was a very reserved person, he's like, am I able to give you a hug? It's like, I feel like he could figure this out too, but it was just having that partnership and being able to run that through and just giving him that emotional, like, hey, I'm going to be okay in retirement.
Absolutely.
He was so elated and so happy.
I love that.
Yes. So honestly, it's all about being organized. I hope you took out a piece of paper, because I want you to write down on your piece of paper now from 1 to 10. I don't care if you're close to retirement, if you're in the having kid stages or in the middle or in retirement, how organized are you in your finances? Because even if you're retired, the growth and income bucket is still going to work for you.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's never too late. And we want this strategy to work for you, and it can at any time. So write down from 1 to 10, how organized are your finances? Do I have to tell mine?
I'm just going to say mine. If I had to guess, I'm probably a 7.
Okay, I can see that.
What are you?
I mean, probably an 8 because of my husband.
At least you know your strengths.
You know how teachers are, really great at teaching, but sometimes, if you're a teacher, sorry, but sometimes you're crazy. It's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right? I'm going to the therapist reasoning, but therapist. Okay. But now when you're working with finances, I help everybody with their finances and organize them. But by the time I get home, I'm so exaded. Helping everybody, I'm like, somebody else can figure that out.
Oh, like no, I've absolutely heard that. That is a real thing.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're tired, like my electrician person. He probably does not want to go home and change his switch plate out or anything.
Electricity.
All right. So now we are going to go into, at least you guys get some entertainment for your time with us tonight. So they're going to beg for Jeff back next time. So the core principle number 3 is so important. And you see these people here are very, very excited. And this is why this is my favorite. It's knowing your financial independence date. And so now we're organized, right? And this one says, hey, I am working for a reason. I'm working for a purpose, but I don't have any clarity around it. So now we're going to bring clarity into what is the date you can retire? What is the date that you can change jobs because you're not in love with the job that you're doing, but you're stuck because you feel like you have to stay there.
Oh, I love that. That's not just retirement.
Right.
I love that.
Right. Exactly.
That can be applicable to so many different avenues. Okay.
It's so important that you are in control and that you have a purpose. You know what you're working for. You know what you're working so hard for, or knowing that you can shift and go and do something that now you're in love with, health or gardening or, electricity,
motorcycling.
So exactly. And you're able to do something else. And that's really important for us. We want people to find their passion. And that's one of our core values, is really helping people find their passion. It puts you in the driver's seat and it gives you freedom when you know the date you can retire. It doesn't mean you have to, but then you know the date you're going to be financially independent and you can retire or make a change.
Sense of relief.
Oh my gosh. The target to shoot for, really. Because when you don't know your financial independence date, you can feel really trapped. You can feel helpless. You're tired. You may be stuck in a job longer than you want to be stuck in. I've had many, many people. I just met with a lady on Saturday, and she, was working very hard for a lot of years. She was over 67.
Okay.
And I laid everything out for her, and she was like, oh, I'm going to make more in retirement than I am now. Like, I can retire next week. And she told me, she goes, I'm having a conversation with my manager, and if it doesn't go the way I need it to go, I'm retiring next week. All because I met with her on Saturday, and she had that power. She was empowered and said she knew her financial independence date, and that happened to be today. which was
Wow.
very cool.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Wow.
It made my Saturday. So it was very, very cool. And that's why I love it. I mean, there's so many times people are saying, hey, I didn't realize that. I didn't see that on paper. But in the story that I want to talk to you about today, and this is the last story that we're going to go through, and I'm going to let you guys know how you can get your free gifts and how you can get in touch with us. But the last story we want to talk about is Denise. And she was an HR manager for a big corporation. And she was in that sandwich stage, well, a little bit out of it, but in that sandwich stage of her parents were getting elderly. And one of her parents had Alzheimer's, the other one had cancer.
Oh.
So
Very
very
similar.
important. And it was in the middle of COVID, and one person, so there had to be a caretaker. So she was pulled in many directions. And then she had a daughter that had a baby. So yeah, so it's like she was wanting to be so many places, but she still was working, and she really honestly wanted to be home with her either parents or her daughter. And she didn't know what her date was that she could retire or have a plan because she was too busy. She was too busy to make adjustments. She actually had a late life divorce, and she was just too busy to make any adjustments to her plan. So we reviewed all of her retirement statements, all of her debt. We made a plan and said, okay, this is where you're at currently. And then looking at projections on how her income in her 401k, not her income, I'm sorry, but her 401k that she saved for, how is that going to last for the future, and how long will it last? So we were able to pull all those numbers together. So she just wanted to know when she could retire because she was feeling so tired and trapped and so stressed. And she was just like, there's got to be more to this. I'm going to lose my parents, and I'm never going to have time to even be with them.
Right.
And that, pulled on my heartstrings a lot, because I have parents that are aging as well. And my dad has Alzheimer's, and it's like, yeah, I get it. Right. So if she can be there, and she's 61, she deserves to have that time. So we looked at all of our numbers, and I said, with the numbers you have, 65 looks like the date with what you're doing. And it just, yes, she was happy to know this, but it wasn't where she wanted to be. So she said, well, what can I do? Yeah, right. So she said, what can I do to retire earlier? And I said, okay, well, you need to tweak this, and we're going to put this much more in your 401k. We need to save this much in taxes. And we were able to spreadsheet everything out.
Oh, awesome.
And she was able to retire in a year at 63.
Woo!
Yeah.
Exciting. Okay.
But if she didn't know, she would keep working.
Right.
She would keep stressing, and she might not have the time with her family. But she knew now that date, and it was actually, she showed me on our last meeting, she circled her date in purple. That like, this is it. This is the day I'm going to turn in my notice. And before that, but it was going to work for her. She just had to make little tweaks and little adjustments by knowing her current budget, what she was allocating, making those tweaks. Now, if she had even more years, what a difference that could make. Can you imagine?
Absolutely. Yep. The other direction.
Exactly. So I want you to think about your calendar and your date. So do you know the date that you can retire? Has that been laid out for you? Or the date that you can start doing something different? Maybe you're in a job that you don't like. So if you know that date, awesome. Congratulations, 100%. And it's good to write that date down on your piece of paper, because seeing it many times is going to be just, confirming, when you can have that freedom. But if you don't have that date, like so many Americans do not have that date, they don't know, you're not alone, but we can get you those answers. So, we'll talk about this in a little bit. So we covered a lot in 30 minutes, and I want to review the principles with you. So principle number 1, and I want you to take out your sheet of paper and look at what you wrote on each of these principles. But principle number 1 is to know how to spend your money to save your money. And that was so important. What is the one big thing that you wrote down that stresses you out most about your money? Remember, you can absolutely learn how to spend money, to make money, and save money. Like, that is a strategy that we have. And I want you to imagine, again, being like Amy and just having a plan for your money, no matter what life event comes up, like having your plan. Principle number 2 was setting your growth and income bucket. And this is when we talked about being organized. And how organized were you? If it weren't for my husband, I would be probably a 5. But I said 8, Jenna said 7. What was your number for organization? And the key to being organized is creating a growth bucket. That's going to be your key to long-term success for your finances. Remember, Larry had his income bucket figured out, but he was in more control and he was more confident when he had both his income and growth bucket organized and figured out.
Right.
And principle number 3 was knowing your financial independence day. Remember, everybody was like raising their hand because they were so happy. And I want that. I want that to be you. I want you to have that excitement and know when you can retire and when your financial independence date is. So really look, if you did not have that date wrote down, I mean, actually, one of our gifts is a tool to have that date, but I want you to reach out to us because we can help you find that date so you can have that freedom. My goal is to help thousands of people really know their financial independence and identify that date. It does require a strategic plan and it requires some planning, but I'm going to actually offer you a couple first steps here. So I want to offer you a few gifts. The first one is awesome. So if you just email me and put in the subject line, my gift, I'm going to send you back a link so you can go to our retirement calculator and find out what your independence date is. If you love that date, awesome. If you want to tweak that date, that's when, we're going to help you plan. But at least you can know what that date is. So email me at jmerida@moneyconcepts.com and say, just my gift, and then I will send you the link. And the second gift also is that we have wrote a few books here at Tranel Financial Group, but one of the books is 8 Things I Wish I Knew Before I Retired. And this is a culmination of a lot of people's stories on really what they would have tweaked or, what they would really help them succeed more financially in retirement. And I want to offer you this book as well. So again, email me, jmerida@moneyconcepts.com, and just put in there my gift/book, and then I'll know that that's what you're looking for. But this is an awesome gift. I read it quite a few times. So really, really happy. And we want to thank you guys for being with us today. Now, some of you might want a little bit more, and you've looked at Amy's story, Larry's story, Denise's story, and it's really touched you, or something has really resonated with you. And I'm setting time in the next 2 weeks to meet with the attendees of the webinar to go through and have a financial freedom session. So this is complimentary. I want to meet with you, have this financial freedom session, give you some tips, help guide you along the way, but having that time to see how can I help you unlock your financial freedom. That is the most important thing you can do, and I want to give that to you. So email me, and you can put in the subject line meeting, or call 847-680-9050 and ask for Jennifer, and I'll be happy to set up a time. So I want to thank you guys for being with us today, and I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes. The goal isn't more money. The goal is living life on your terms. And that has been the theme that I have woven in throughout this whole presentation, is living life on your terms. It can be done, and I want to show you the way. So give me a call. Again, thank you for being with us tonight, and I look forward to connecting with you.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.